And we're back. I am talking with Matt, and I forgot your last name.
Golia.
Golia,
Yeah.
Matt Golia with
Yeah.
Locatee. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
We were chatting earlier, and this is your first RealComm
It is.
IBCon conference,
Yeah.
so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. How's it been? What's been your impression of the conference, seeing it for the first time?
Yeah, it's great. So we're based in New York, so things have been opening up there over the past couple months. We went to our first event, a BizNow event in New York a couple weeks ago, so that was our kind of intro back to in-person events, which was great. And yeah, we were just excited to get out here to Arizona to see everything, and it's nice to have an in-person event.
It really
finally.
is. It really is. I have encountered so many happy people, and that's what I've heard over and over. Is it's just nice to be back to to an event where people are here, and I think everybody has that very positive outlook that we're moving in the right direction, and this is it's just wonderful to be talking to colleagues again and clients and having face-to-face conversations and things like that.
Well, you've put on a great show here.
Well,
we got
thank
here on Monday, and we've been participating in everything. It's been great.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, you are a new company with RealComm, and so give our viewers an overview of who Locatee is and what it is that you guys do.
Yeah, so we've been around since 2014. We're a Swiss company, and we just opened our first New York office in December of last year, so kind of in the middle of everything. But
wow, talk about timing.
Yeah. It was strategic, but we're a workplace occupancy and utilization tool. So we are an end-to-end software solution. We work our end users, corporate real estate teams typically, and they use the tool to see how large office portfolios are being used.
Okay. So December, so you came in, right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Right? And so that would have been, fairly difficult getting things off the ground.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that also gave you a lot of data that you could use in evaluating, what your path forward needed to be.
Yeah, I mean the challenge with any type of workplace occupancy tool right now is that buildings are for the most part empty.
Right.
So you're not getting data if there aren't people in seats.
Right.
So we were really starting to take off in the U.S. right before COVID. That's when they started to look at opening up a U.S. office. Everyone else is in Zurich. COVID hits, offices close, no data is being pulled when the buildings are closed, but the U.S. office was opened with the expectation that people would be getting back into buildings at the beginning of this year, and we'd have a team in the States to help grow the U.S. presence. So to answer your question, there isn't much data as long as buildings are closed, but we're seeing obviously people come back to buildings throughout the year, this year and going into next year, and everyone we're talking to wants to have a tool in place to be capturing data as soon as their buildings do begin to reopen if they haven't already.
Right. Yeah. So what are you hearing from from owners and property management companies about their strategy for getting people back into the buildings?
Yeah, it's challenging. I mean, some of the studies that we talk about are, people want to be back in buildings. So employees, for the most part, want to be back in some capacity, not necessarily 5 days a week, but they want to have somewhere to go. And employers want people back as well. So there's a need for offices, and most everyone we're talking to is putting together some sort of hybrid strategy, which I'm sure you're hearing a lot. So where we come in is trying to help people see what's actually happening in the buildings. You have a strategy, you're expecting people to maybe come in 2 or 3 days a week, and we're there to say, here's what's actually happening in the buildings, and is it meeting the expectations that you set?
Now, are you hardware and software, or are you just on the software side? So
we are end-to-end software solution. If you look at the market as a whole, there are hardware solutions like sensors and badging, which most people are familiar with, and then there's software, which is where we fall in. So the majority of our clients use just their Wi-Fi in their buildings to see how devices move around their space. That's where we capture most of the data. But yeah, we're also able to integrate with sensors and other types of hardware solutions as well.
So what kind of information are you gathering? What goes into, what kind of data goes into assessing that that occupancy model?
So the way that the technology works is we're essentially seeing how devices are moving throughout the space.
Okay.
So we're able to see what company-issued devices like laptops and cell phones, they connect to the company's Wi-Fi, and we're able to see how they move throughout the buildings. So that's our primary data source. I would say 90% of our clients use Wi-Fi exclusively as the data source to see occupancy. And then depending on the use cases, there are opportunities to have things like sensors in place to pull data in as well. Something like a phone booth, that's a good opportunity for a sensor. So we're able to pull data in from multiple data sources, we aggregate it, and then we visualize it in a dashboard.
Okay. Are you working with primarily corporate clients, or are you focusing on multi-tenanted office space as well, retail? What asset classes are you really focused on as you broaden your U.S. operations?
So it's all offices. Again, since Wi-Fi is the main data source that we use, and company-issued devices is the primary way that we collect that data, it's office space. That we're tracking. As far as the end users, it's corporate real estate teams primarily, heads of real estate, facility managers. Those are the people who are logging into the dashboard and seeing how their spaces are being used. We are, and especially at Realcomm this week, we're talking to more property owners who are thinking about adding services like this as amenities in their buildings. So having a building set up with an occupancy tool in place and offering it as an amenity for tenants.
Right.
So we're trying to move into that direction as well, but historically, and our biggest clients have been large corporate real estate teams.
Right. Right. Well, data is really important, and I think for the real estate industry, they are really, not that they didn't before, but the realization that data really is key.
Yeah. And
we've been pulling data, and sensors have been reporting data, but it's what you do with that data,
right?
How you use that data that really makes the biggest difference.
Yep.
Are you finding that that a lot of the real estate organizations that you work with and that you are talking to about these kinds of projects, that they already have something in place, and maybe they're just floundering a little because they don't quite know what to do with all of the data? Are they already collecting data, or are you finding that a lot of the companies you're talking to really, they don't have that data and they really need to put that mechanism in place in order to gather it?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of both. I mean, I think a lot of companies that we're talking to have known that they need something at some point, and COVID is kind of what's prompted them to take action and get something in place. So I would say most people that we talk to, when we start talking, they have something. So that might just be like a building level badge. So they've always been able to see when people are walking into the building, but not beyond that. They don't know what floor they're on or what offices they're going to.
Right.
You see folks that will have sensors in certain areas, but not portfolio wide. So normally there's some sort of tool in place, but it's not comprehensive and it's not portfolio wide.
Right.
And without having that full coverage of your portfolio, the data it's not very useful.
Right.
So yeah, there's definitely an education. Early conversations are talking about different use cases and how we're working with existing clients to kind of paint the picture of how to use the data.
Okay. Do you work with other partners? Do you have a partner ecosystem that is a part of that solution, or do you have, or is all of this really contained, in-house?
We do a lot of it ourselves, so we're end to end, but we partner with things like sensors, like I said before,
Right.
there are opportunities for hardware, and hardware can do certain things that a Wi-Fi based solution can't do. So yeah, absolutely, we have clients that have things like sensors in place, and the good thing about software solutions is typically they're able to use data from other vertically integrated hardware solutions.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
So let's talk about integration. Obviously, being here at the conference, you're running into all sorts of real estate organizations. Small firms, mid-sized firms, large firms like a Hines or a Tishman. What kinds of implementations are really of the real estate organizations that are really embracing it from end to end? What kind of implementations are you doing? You don't have to say client names, but which do you have clients that are really embracing the use of this data and really taking advantage of every facet of this data solution and workplace management kind of technology?
Yeah, so our biggest clients are typically those that have large portfolios, so global portfolios where it's really hard to roll out a hardware solution. So
Right.
In the US, our biggest clients are large pharmaceutical companies. The company, like I said, is Swiss-based, so a lot of the original deals were out of Europe, and they
Right.
were pharma, banking, insurance. So
Okay.
it's these multinationals that have really large footprints that are global, and they need a single source of truth where their head of real estate can log in and see what's going on around the world. So,
Right.
yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah,
but-
it does. What is the biggest challenge, in going in and working with one of these large firms? What is the biggest challenge that you face in pulling all of this together for them?
Well, there's a lot. I guess it starts by really understanding the use cases. So I think everyone knows about sensors, and more we're hearing that people have heard about Wi-Fi solutions when we initially talk to them, but not everyone necessarily knows what the use cases are, knows what to do with the data. So a lot of the early stage conversations are, how our existing clients are using the data, talking about where there are opportunities within each of these prospective clients' portfolios. So, yeah, just it's a data source that a lot of people don't have fully set up yet. So, talking about the opportunities to use the data is where we start the conversation, and
Right.
yeah, a lot of the focus is on like painting the picture of what to do with the tool.
Okay. What well, you guys have obviously we talked about when you came in and getting started on the rocky path to start with.
Yeah.
What about the next 12 to 18 months? What do you see going on? Hopefully we'll see you at the Realcomm IBCon conference in 2022. But what can we expect from Locatee in the next 12 to 18 months? So what's that path look for?
Yeah, we're expecting to do a lot of POCs the beginning of next year. A lot of folks had been focusing on tools to help employee engagement. So things like desk booking tools that are helping employees feel comfortable getting back into buildings. So that's been what we've seen to be a lot of the focus for corporate real estate teams throughout this year. And once that's in place, we kind of are coming in to help do the second step, which we talked about before. You have people that are coming back in, but are they doing what we expect them to be doing? So we look at that as like desk booking validation, we would call that, or meeting room booking validation. So that's where we're seeing a lot of opportunities and where we expect to do a lot of POCs at the beginning of next year. Everyone kind of has a moving target of when they're going to be back in offices. So it was Q3, it was Q4, and now we're here in Q1. So we expect more people to be in buildings, and that is a great opportunity for us, obviously, as they try to get back and want to have these types of systems in place when they are back in their buildings. And then we just raised some money, and we're working on adding new capabilities in the dashboards. So that's kind of what's going on in Switzerland and what we're doing here in the States.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing more from more from you and hearing about more client implementations. And I think we're running out of time. But it was great chatting with you,
Yeah, thanks for having
and
me.
hope to see you again next year, and
We will
and
be
hopefully
here.
we can check in again in, what is that, 9 months from now or so,
Yeah.
something like that, and see where you are. But I think I think by Q1 with people really in earnest coming back to the office,
Yeah.
I think you guys will start to make some strides forward and really start to accomplish some things.
I think so too.
So great. It was great meeting you,
Yeah, nice to meet
and
you
I
too.
hope to talk to you again really soon.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Thank you.